Did you know that in medieval London, the population was around 50,000 people? Imagine living in a city that's small by today's standards. Yet, despite its size, London was a bustling hub of activity, culture, and commerce. It was the largest city in England and a crucial center for trade, governance, and culture. Now, let's delve into the topic of daily life in medieval London. It wasn't all castles and knights. We're focusing on the common folk and the challenges they faced on a daily basis. Life in medieval London was no walk in the park. The people of that time had to deal with disease outbreaks, poor sanitation, and a rigid social hierarchy that dictated their every move. The streets were narrow and often filthy, filled with the sounds and smells of a city teeming with life. The city's layout was a maze of winding streets and alleys, many of which were unpaved and muddy. Houses were packed tightly together, often leaning over the streets, creating a claustrophobic atmosphere. Despite these conditions, London was a vibrant, thriving city. Picture streets alive with the chatter of vendors hawking their wares, the clang of blacksmiths' hammers, and the mingling scents of fresh bread and less pleasant odors from open sewers. Imagine cramped living quarters, noisy streets bustling with activity, and people toiling away in various trades to make ends meet. Bakers, blacksmiths, and merchants all played crucial roles in the economy, while markets were the heartbeat of the city. It was a tough life, but they made the best of it. The bakers rose early to prepare bread for the day, while blacksmiths labored in the heat of their forges, crafting tools and repairing items. Merchants, meanwhile, dealt with a myriad of goods, from local produce to exotic imports. One of the most remarkable aspects of medieval London was its vibrant trade. The River Thames was the lifeblood of the city, bringing goods and people from all over the known world. The docks were always busy, with ships unloading everything from spices and silk to timber and wine. London's position on the Thames made it a key player in international trade. The city's merchants formed powerful guilds, such as the Worshipful Company of Mercers, which dominated the import and export of goods. These guilds wielded significant influence, setting standards for trade and providing a network of support for their members. But let's not romanticize it too much. Daily life was fraught with challenges. For instance, sanitation was a significant issue. Waste disposal was rudimentary at best, with open sewers running down the streets. This, combined with the close quarters in which people lived, created a perfect breeding ground for disease. Most people relied on chamber pots, which were emptied into the streets or into the River Thames. The resulting stench was unbearable, and the risk of disease was ever present. The lack of proper sanitation led to frequent outbreaks of illnesses, and clean drinking water was a constant concern. Speaking of disease, one key moment that shaped daily life in medieval London was the outbreak of the Great Plague in 1348. This devastating event changed the city forever and left a lasting impact on its residents. The plague decimated the population, killing an estimated one-third of the city's inhabitants. It was a time of unimaginable horror and sorrow, but it also brought about significant social and economic changes. Entire neighborhoods were wiped out, leaving a profound mark on the city's demographic and social fabric. The Great Plague, also known as the Black Death, arrived in England in 1348 and quickly spread through London. The disease, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, was carried by fleas on rats. Symptoms included fever, chills, vomiting, and the appearance of painful buboes. The plague's rapid spread and high mortality rate caused widespread panic and social upheaval. The city's infrastructure struggled to cope with the sheer number of deaths, and many people turned to religion for comfort, believing the plague was a punishment from God. The psychological impact was immense, with fear and superstition dominating daily life. Despite these hardships, the people of medieval London showed incredible resilience. They adapted to their circumstances, finding ways to survive and even thrive. The city was home to numerous guilds, organizations that regulated trades and maintained standards. These guilds played a crucial role in the economic life of the city, providing support and protection for their members. The guilds were powerful and influential, with their own halls and chapels. They set standards for quality and training, controlled prices, and provided charity and support for their members. Guilds also fostered a sense of community and mutual aid among their members, helping them navigate the economic challenges of the time. Markets were vibrant centers of activity, where people from all walks of life came together. From the grand fairs of Smithfield to the everyday hustle and bustle of Cheapside, markets were the lifeblood of the city. Here, you could find everything from fresh produce to fine cloth, from exotic spices to everyday household items. The markets were noisy, bustling places, filled with the cries of vendors and the chatter of shoppers. They were also places where news and gossip were exchanged, making them vital hubs of communication. Markets were not just about commerce. They were social spaces where people met, exchanged information, and built community bonds. But what about home life? The typical medieval Londoner lived in a small, cramped house, often sharing space with extended family members. These homes were constructed from timber and wattle and daub, with thatched roofs that were prone to catching fire. Inside, they were dimly lit, with rushlights or tallow candles providing limited illumination. The hearth was the center of the home, where meals were prepared and families gathered. Diets were simple but hearty, consisting mainly of bread, pottage, and occasionally meat or fish. Fresh fruits and vegetables were available, but their consumption varied with the seasons. Most people drank ale or weak beer, as water was often contaminated. The alehouses were popular gathering places, where people could relax and socialize. The simplicity of their diet reflected the agricultural rhythms and local resources of the time. Education was a privilege few could afford. Most children were taught basic skills at home, while only the wealthier families could send their sons to grammar schools or employ tutors. For girls, education was even more limited, focusing primarily on domestic skills. However, some boys had the opportunity to attend schools run by monasteries or the church, where they could receive a more advanced education. These schools taught Latin, the language of the church and learning, as well as basic arithmetic and religious instruction. The curriculum reflected the needs of a society where literacy was rare and practical skills were highly valued. Religion played a central role in daily life. The church was a powerful institution, influencing every aspect of society. People attended regular services, observed numerous religious festivals, and sought the church's guidance in matters both spiritual and temporal. Monasteries and churches were not just places of worship, but also centers of learning and charity. The church provided education, healthcare, and support for the poor and needy. Pilgrimages were common, with Londoners traveling to revered sites such as Canterbury or even further afield to Santiago de Compostela. These journeys were acts of faith and devotion, undertaken to seek divine favor or penance. The church also played a key role in the legal system, with church courts handling matters such as wills, marriages, and moral offenses. The church's influence extended into every aspect of life, shaping moral values and social norms. Maintaining law and order was another crucial aspect of medieval life. The city had its own system of courts and officials, including the infamous watchmen, who patrolled the streets at night. Crime and punishment were harsh by today's standards, with public executions and corporal punishment serving as deterrents. The legal system was based on a combination of local customs and royal edicts, with cases heard by local justices or royal judges. The most serious crimes, such as murder or treason, were tried by the king's courts and could result in severe punishments, including execution. Public executions were both a form of punishment and a grim spectacle, intended to reinforce social order and deter crime. The social hierarchy was rigid, with a clear division between the nobility, the clergy, and the commoners. This hierarchy dictated one's place in society and influenced every aspect of life, from legal rights to economic opportunities. The nobility owned most of the land and held significant political power, while the clergy wielded spiritual authority. The commoners, who made up the majority of the population, had limited rights and opportunities but played a crucial role in the city's economy and society. This hierarchical structure reinforced social stability but also limited social mobility and perpetuated economic disparities. In conclusion, the people of medieval London showed incredible resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity. They may have faced countless challenges, but they never gave up. Their ingenuity and determination laid the foundations for the vibrant, diverse city that London would become in later centuries. Before we wrap up, we encourage you to explore more about medieval history. Check out our other videos on the channel or share your thoughts and questions in the comments below, and please help our channel grow by subscribing. We love hearing from you. Thanks for joining us on this journey through medieval London. Stay curious.